musicians are able to combine pop, country, and folk music with unparalleled lyricism. John Denver, an American singer and songwriter, accomplished all of that and more with ease. In the 1970s, John Denver was one of the most well-known acoustic singers. He popularized songs including Take Me Home, Country Roads, Leaving on a Jet Plane, and Annie's Song, the latter of which was inspired by his then-wife, Annie Denver. Annie Denver, who is now 78, finally put an end to all the speculation about the late country singer by confirming the allegations about John Denver. It's no secret that without her well-known ex-husband, many people would not be aware of Annie Denver. As a former school commissioner and television personality, she is a very remarkable person. Therefore, it is not surprising that the late country artist also fell in love with her. She was raised in a Christian home and was born Annie Martell on September 6, 1946 in Minnesota, USA, to Jim and Norma Martell. She has 3 siblings, Linda, Terry, and Ben. She went to the local schools in Minnesota all of her life. Additionally, she enrolled at Aldous College in St. After graduating from high school, she met the renowned country singer and Peter. When the would-be lovers first met in 1966, Denver was a member of the Chad Mitchell Trio, a musical group. Denver was immediately attracted to Martell, who was a sophomore at the time, and they eventually reconnected a few months after their first encounter. In a 2022 episode of the Mobituaries with Moa podcast, Martell shared additional information about their initial encounter. She talked about how she was playing with the Mitchell Trio with her future spouse. He then joined a group of folks playing the guitar while they performed a ridiculous little musical. According to Martell, she was the girl who carried the signs from Act 9 to Act 2 across the stage. She further disclosed that her ex-husband can vividly recall her outfit from that day, which consisted of penny loafers, a flannel blouse, and blue jeans. They became friends and wrote to each other, and before they knew it, they were going down the aisle and getting married on June 9, 1967. Only 9 months were spent together before the pair announced their engagement and got married shortly after. One of John Denver's more well-known songs is Annie, which made Annie Martell, now Mrs. Denver, well known. The fact that the song incorporates everything John Denver enjoyed at the time is what makes it so remarkable. His love for his wife, his passion for music, and above all, the environment. Annie Denver just recently revealed in this song what we've all been wanting to know about John Denver. The 78-year-old widow apparently still breaks down in tears when she hears this song. In addition to this song, Annie Denver revealed that perhaps Love, a song her ex-husband performed with Placido Domingo, is also one of her faves. Did the two share a private encounter that inspired the song? Despite what many people think, John Denver had a life-altering experience that led to the creation of Annie's song. Take Me Home, Country Roads was released in 1971, making it one of the most important years in the country folk singer's career. However, Annie's song and a few other singles also contributed to the development of his career. Following that, the couple and a few pals went camping in Aspen, Colorado. Denver, who loved the outdoors, quickly fell in love with the area, which also served as the inspiration for one of his other singles, Rocky Mountain High. After a while, Denver and his spouse relocated to the area where they established a house and brought up their family. But one lovely day in 1973, John Denver was so moved by their surroundings that he hurried home. Annie Denver claims that after one of their several arguments, in which they put aside their differences in order to make up, her husband penned it. John Denver left in a good mood to go skiing, and the song just came to him as he was sitting on the Ajax chair on Aspen Mountain. He jotted it down as soon as he came home, and it was finished in less than 10 minutes. I was first given it through him, and it was a love song. But to him it started to resemble a prayer. The couple, who were not fortunate enough to have children biologically, adopted a son and a daughter, Zachary John and Anna Kate, whom they both adored, and Annie Denver said, "It's pleasing to know that there's lasting proof of the love shared between Annie and John Denver through this song." The Denvers' 15-year marriage came to an end in 1982, when they filed for divorce, sadly, because their love did not last. Every narrative has two sides, and we'll examine the factors that caused each group to split. According to the country artist, His wife's relationship was significantly impacted by his success and dedication to his career. They even went so far as to imply that the two appeared to have begun to drift apart during the latter years of their relationship. John Denver's divorce was partly caused by the fact that, being a well-known singer in his peak, he had to travel frequently for performances and concerts. I believe that Annie's and my relationship was impacted by my accomplishments and dedication to my career. When Denver appeared on The Russell Hardy Show in 1983, he shared, "I think we started drifting away from one another over the last 4, 5 or 6 years," he added. A portion of it was related to the length of time we were apart, the things I became committed to while we were apart, and the rigidity with which we reconnected to sort of incorporate one another's lives into our own. In contrast to the singer, his wife claims that they broke up because they were too young and immature to handle John Denver's unexpected rise to fame. She felt so threatened by his fame and all that accompanied it that she lost all sense of who she was and how she lacked an identity. Despite their disagreements, the couple ended their relationship amicably, with her continuing to be single to this day, and John Denver getting married again. Were you aware? Since Annie Martell is still living in her Colorado home with her children and grandkids, there is no truth to the reports that she has already passed away. Even though their relationship was brief, it's rare to witness a cordial breakup between two people, yet Annie Martell remained friendly with her ex-husband throughout their breakup. Given the scandals and difficulties surrounding her ex-husband, this is very shocking, particularly his passing, which we will discuss later. It is only fitting that we discuss Annie Martell Denver's ex-husband John Denver, since we have already discussed her. Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. was born in Roswell, New Mexico, on December 31, 1943. He became well known as John Denver, the renowned country music star. Emma Louise and Captain Henry John Dutch Deutschendorf Sr. were his parents. His father was an accomplished pilot with numerous awards. As a boy, Denver remembered his father as a strict guy who did not show his children much affection, and the patriarch's profession required them to move around a lot. Their family's frequent moves didn't assist Denver's introversion as a child. For starters, he consistently struggled to fit in and make friends in their new surroundings. His father's deployment to Tucson, Arizona, where the family resided from 1951 to 1959, was the first time they spent the most time in one place. His grandmother gave him an acoustic guitar when he was 11 years old, and he picked it up on his own. He kept playing, and by the time he was a college student, he was regarded as good enough to perform in clubs and gigs throughout town. He continued to go by his given name until Randy Sparks, the founder of the New Christy Minstrels, recommended that he choose a new name that would be easier to pronounce. He continued to perform while studying architecture at Texas Tech University in Locke, where he was now known as John Denver. In addition to playing the guitar at the time, Denver was a singer in a folk music ensemble. In 1963, he left school to pursue music full-time in Los Angeles. 2 more years passed until Denver, who was then performing at folk clubs, took Chad Mitchell's position in the Chad Mitchell Trio. In the end, the 3 members, John Denver, David Boise and Michael Johnson, were renamed Denver, Boise and Johnson. Denver decided to pursue a solo career after leaving the band after a few more years. In 1969, R.C. DeLay Records published his debut album Rhymes and Reasons. Prior to this, he recorded a few of his songs on his own, including Babe I Hate to Go, which attracted the notice of producer Milt Oken. After that, it was revised to become what we now refer to as Leaving on a Jet Plane. The folk group Peter, Paul and Mary, who popularized the song and even made it to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, joined Oken as producer in Denver by this point. In December 1969, Denver's version likewise became the #1 song on the U.S. Cashbox chart. Many people are unaware that John Denver handled the majority of his own promotion, including going on a Midwest tour, hosting free shows and even volunteering to perform at local venues. Knowing that he was the composer behind Departing on a Jet Plane, he also visited radio stations that made fun of him. He was even permitted to perform a few songs while on television. The country artist had a strong fan following that supported him well into his latter years because of all of these factors. In contrast to his debut album, John Denver's 1971 follow-up, Poems, Prayers and Promises, was a commercial triumph. The album, particularly Take Me Home, Country Roads, shot to the top of the charts. The success of this record can partly be attributed to the work of his new manager Jerry Weinenrob, who helped spread the word about his music through a radio airplay campaign. We have already discussed how Denver helped him build a reputation with the locals. Hit songs including Rocky Mountain High, Sunshine on My Shoulders, Thank God I'm a Country Boy, and Annie's Song helped John Denver achieve unprecedented success in the early 1970s. Additionally, Weinenstra ensured that he received airtime on the local television network by participating in as many guest shows as possible before eventually beginning to host some. Even more than 60 million people saw his seasonal spectacular Rocky Mountain Christmas, which was acclaimed as the ABC network's highest-rated program at the time. The singer was in such high demand that he eventually had his own BBC series called The John Denver Show. It goes without saying that the artist also received numerous Grammy Awards and American Music Awards among other notable honors. John Denver focused on conducting more humanitarian work and natural conservation projects when his fame declined in the late 1970s. He performed for the Aspen Camp School for the Deaf and even contributed to the $1.7 million capital campaign for the Aspen Valley Hospital as part of fundraising efforts. In addition, he owns the 450-acre WinStar Land Conservancy in Aspen, Colorado, which doubles as a wildlife sanctuary and an environmental education center in addition to being his home. Denver married Annie Martell, as we well know, and they got divorced after 15 years. The fact that there was a somewhat extreme incident during the separation of their assets is what we neglected to convey at the time. Denver then admitted that he was so furious that he attempted to use a chainsaw to chop their marriage bed in half in order to precipitate their breakup. But according to insiders, he merely did it to exact revenge on Martell for raising several of their Aspen family trees. A few more years passed before Denver and the Australian actress Cassandra Delaney became husband and wife in 1985. Following a few brief years of dating, he married her in 1988 after meeting her in Sydney. In May of the following year, Delaney moved into a house in Aspen, Denver, and gave birth to a daughter, Jessie Bell. However, just like his marriage to Annie Martell, Denver and Delaney did not last long together. The actress even dubbed her ex-husband a vengeful tyrant when they called it quits in 1991. Although no one can be certain, many people think that Denver's difficulties in later life were sparked by his divorce from his second wife. In 1992, he was initially accused with drunk driving. Additionally, he was placed on probation after entering a guilty plea to a drunk driving charge the following year after crashing his Porsche into a tree. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, mandated that he refrain from drinking alcohol if he was to continue flying aircraft after his drunk driving conviction. But regrettably, he failed to deliver. Denver was medically prohibited from flying an airplane the next year. John Denver had many struggles behind his gentle exterior, which made him turn to drugs and alcohol for solace. Despite his public image, he was insecure and experienced depressive episodes. He also freely acknowledged using marijuana and LSD while riding Rocky Mountain High, and he frequently came under fire for his duplicity and terrible drinking habits. Despite not being as accomplished as his father, John Denver had a wealth of aviation knowledge. He was even licensed to do it. John Denver loved flying so much that he even participated in a VH1 commercial competition. How, therefore, did a man like him wind up dead? Was his plane sabotaged in some way? To find out, continue listening. It's critical to comprehend the history and characteristics of airplanes before delving into this. An airplane is constructed with durability and safety in mind, just like anything else. But when you catch fire, you can't really pull over like you can with a car, can you? It would take more than a few minutes for the aircraft to stop,
and by then a mere puff of gray smoke from the engine might quickly turn into a fire. In order to find a place where they can safely land their aircraft, an aircraft has a fuel shutoff valve in the cockpit that allows the fire to spread and dissipate. On October 12, 1997, John Denver was killed when his light home-built aircraft, the Rutan Long EZ, fell into Monterey Bay close to the Pacific Grove in California. His age was 53. The cause of the disaster was the subject of numerous conspiracies and speculations. One of the more common ones is the fuel selection valve being positioned incorrectly, behind the left shoulder of the pilot. Because the pilot would have to release all controls in order to shut off the valve, it was not ergonomically sound. In addition to this, there is his fuel. There were some gauges that showed if he was running short on fuel, but it was difficult to discern if he had very little remaining because they weren't linear and didn't have any markings. In conclusion, the country singer died after falling into the water due to his aircraft's genuinely subpar construction. However, the country singer neglected to examine and enforce other safety measures, and the plane's interface was the lone factor contributing to the entire accident. John Denver paid the ultimate price as a result. Notwithstanding his tragic demise, he is still honored and most recognized today for his inspirational and life-altering contributions to music and humanitarian causes. His song "Country Roads Take Me Home" made its Billboard chart debut this year alone after appearing in a Super Bowl advertisement. The fact that a tribute to the country artist will be released on July 10 further demonstrates how timeless and relevant his songs are even now.